You know, when you think of the story of Noah,
Yeah.
what's the first image that really comes to mind?
Oh, it's the toy ark, right?
It's always the
Yeah.
toy ark.
Yeah.
Cheerful, colorful, smiling animals all lined up 2 by 2. It's this beautifully sanitized children's story.
It is.
Yeah.
But if you actually, open the sources we've pulled, the text itself, theological studies, historical commentaries, that image just gets shattered instantly.
Yeah.
The story of Noah is really about a crisis. It's a shocking account of divine judgment on a world so corrupt that God, in the text, expresses this profound grief over even creating humanity.
And that really sets the stage for our deep dive today. Our mission is to unpack the story of Noah. We want to look at the character of the man himself, the incredible engineering of the ark, and the absolutely furious debate that still rages over the scale and meaning of the Great Flood.
Right, and to understand just how righteous Noah was, you first have to grasp how wicked the world around him was. The sources call this the dispensation of conscience.
Meaning what exactly?
It means there were no written laws yet. There was just the moral law that's, supposed to be written on the human heart. And they failed, utterly.
And the level of depravity described is just. It's absolute. The sources use the Hebrew word shamas, of violence was everywhere. But the key line for me is, every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Continually.
There's no off switch. It suggests every single thought just spiraled into more corruption.
Exactly, which makes Noah's existence almost a miracle. If you look at his background, he's the 10th pre-flood patriarch. His father, Lamech, gave him a name that carried this incredible weight of hope.
Noah. It means comfort or rest.
Lamech was hoping he'd bring some relief from the curse on the world, but the irony is, the only relief that came was through the complete destruction of everything he knew.
And the timeline is so strained. Long lives, but a compressed story. Noah lived 950 years, and I thought this was fascinating. His grandfather, Methuselah, the oldest man in the record, he dies in the very same year the flood begins.
It's like a final marker, isn't it? The age of patience is officially over. And that patience brings us to the actual catalyst for the judgment. The text uses this very human language for God, saying he grieved in his heart and regretted making man.
That's a tough one for a lot of people to wrestle with, right?
Yeah.
An all-knowing God regretting something. How do the sources explain that?
That's a crucial question. And they're clear that this isn't meant to suggest God, made a mistake or didn't know what would happen. It's anthropomorphic language.
To help us understand.
Yes, to convey the depth of the moral anguish and sorrow involved. He acts, knowing the outcome, but still feels this immense pain over what humanity's choices have forced him to do.
And that gives us the context for the 120-year limit.
Right. God says his spirit won't strive with man forever and limits their days, and that 120 years is consistently read as a window of grace. It's the time God waited while Noah was building the ark and preaching.
A century-long sermon.
But the sources suggest the corruption was accelerated by something really controversial. We have to talk about the sons of God marrying the daughters of men.
And this is where the story just takes a wild turn. There are 3 main viewpoints in the sources about who these sons of God actually were.
Okay, so the first one, which is maybe the most grounded, sees it as a story of spiritual compromise.
The godly line of Seth marrying the ungodly line of Cain.
Exactly. These unequally yoked marriages just diluted and corrupted the last righteous parts of humanity on a massive scale.
Viewpoint 2 is a bit different. It suggests they were human rulers, like powerful despots or kings who were taking huge harems by force.
Yeah, creating this system of organized oppression. And then you have viewpoint 3.
The most sensational one.
By far. This one suggests the sons of God were actually fallen angels or demons who physically cohabited with human women. It leans on some New Testament cross-references that talk about angels being imprisoned after that time.
And what would have been the goal of that? Why would they do that?
Well, according to that interpretation, the goal was sinister. It was to completely corrupt the human gene pool.
To make it impossible for the promised Messiah to be born from a pure human line.
Precisely. It was an existential threat.
And the result of this union, no matter which of the 3 views you take, was the Nephilim.
Yes. The Nephilim. It literally means the fallen ones. The text calls them mighty men, men of renown. Whether they were these, semi-divine hybrids or just exceptionally violent tyrants, they escalated the wickedness to a point of no return.
So in this world of total corruption, the focus suddenly zooms in on one man who found grace. It was called righteous and blameless.
His faith must have been just Rock solid. I mean, imagine the pressure. No government, no community, just evil everywhere. And sources are really clear. Outside of his own family of 8, Noah was completely alone.
And his obedience wasn't a one-time thing. It was a decades-long project. For up to 120 years, his job was shipbuilder.
Can you imagine? I mean, we think about the logistics of a big project today. He had to source materials, arrange food for thousands of animals, figure out waste removal, security, all with what, his 3 sons helping?
It's an incredible testament to his diligence.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a secret project either. He was a preacher of righteousness. That huge boat sitting inland was a physical sermon for 100 years, and nobody listened.
No one.
Okay, so let's talk about the ark's engineering, because this is where the ancient text gets surprisingly technical and, frankly, brilliant.
It really is. God's instructions were so precise. Gopher wood, covered inside and out with pitch, and the dimensions. 300 cubits long, 50 wide, 30 high.
Which translates to what, roughly?
Somewhere between 450 and 510 feet long. I mean, that's longer than any wooden ship built until like the 19th century.
Okay, but hang on. How can we trust a blueprint that's thousands of years old? I mean, does that 30 by 5 by 3 ratio actually hold up?
And that is the amazing part. Modern naval architects look at that ratio and they recognize it as nearly ideal for stability, especially in chaotic, non-directional waves.
So it wasn't designed for speed.
Not at all. It wasn't meant to be steered. It was designed to be an enormous, unsinkable barge. Almost impossible to capsize. It was built for one thing: survival.
And it needed that stability because of the sheer volume it was carrying.
The capacity was immense. We're
Yeah.
talking 1.4, maybe 1.5 million cubic feet.
What's a good way to visualize that for our listeners?
Think of over 500 modern railroad boxcars. That's the kind of space we're talking about. More than enough room for all the animal kinds and a year's worth of food and water.
So now we move into the event itself. The chronology is very specific. Noah's on the ark for about 370 days. A full year and 11 days.
Right. And the water comes from 2 catastrophic sources at the same time. First, the fountains of the Great Deep burst open.
Which sounds like massive geological upheaval.
Wow.
Tectonic plates shifting, volcanoes,
Yeah.
water from below.
Exactly. And at the same time, the floodgates of the heavens were opened. So you have torrential rain from above. Some theories suggest a pre-flood vapor canopy collapsed. It was a cataclysm from every direction.
And that brings us to the biggest debate in all the source material. The actual scale of the flood. Was it global or was it local?
This is the main event for many people, and we really have to look at both sides fairly.
Let's start with the global view. Their argument really hinges on the explicit language of the text, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They point to the repeated use of words like all and entire. All the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. They argue that if it were just a local flood, why build an ark? Noah could have just moved.
Right, just walk a few hundred miles away.
And they also say a global event is needed to explain things like the sharp drop in human lifespans afterward. It suggests a fundamental change to the Earth's atmosphere.
And what about the physical evidence they point to?
They look at the fossil record. Billions of fossils buried in sedimentary rock layers all over the world. They argue that kind of widespread rapid burial could only happen in a massive worldwide flood.
Okay, a very strong case based on the text. Now let's look at the counter-argument. The local or symbolic view. What are their key points?
They also start with a linguistic argument. They focus on that Hebrew word for earth, which is eretz. And they point out that in many other places in Genesis, eretz just means the land or the region, not the entire planet. So all the earth could have just meant, all the known world from the author's perspective.
All their world, not necessarily the whole globe.
Exactly. And their geological evidence points to things that are hard to square with a recent global flood. For instance, ancient ice caps in Greenland and Antarctica. A global flood should have washed those away.
And things like ancient coral reefs that seem to predate the flood timeline.
Right. They argue the evidence just doesn't support a single simultaneous global inundation a few thousand years ago.
So you have these 2 very compelling, very well thought out arguments. But regardless of the scale, this story is, it's ancient, and flood myths are common across cultures.
Yes, and that's fascinating. It suggests some kind of shared ancient memory of a massive catastrophe. And you have to compare the Genesis account to older myths, like the Epic of Gilgamesh,
which has the survivor, Utnapishtim. And on the surface, there are similarities. A boat, survivors, sending out birds.
The similarities are there, but it's the differences that are so profound. In Gilgamesh, you have Squabbling polytheistic gods who send the flood because humans are being too loud and they can't sleep.
It's motivated by annoyance.
Total caprice.
Yeah.
And the boat is described as a giant, unstable cube. But in Genesis, you have one sovereign God, and his judgment is based on a clear moral standard justice against violence. And the boat is this stable, practical, life-saving vessel. The theological sophistication is just worlds apart.
So after the waters start to go down, Noah has to wait. He needs to know it's safe to come out,
And he uses the birds. First, he sends out a raven. It's a scavenger, and it doesn't come back.
which suggests there's enough carrion floating around for it to eat, but it's not a sign of recovery.
Right. Then comes the dove. And the dove tells the story in 3 flights. First, it comes back with nowhere to rest. The second time, it comes back with a freshly picked olive leaf.
The first sign of new life.
The first sign of recovery. And the third time, it just doesn't come back at all. The world is ready.
And that whole transition from judgment back to mercy is captured in one phrase that can be really confusing. God remembered Noah.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh, right, that guy in the boat.
So what does that Hebrew word zakar actually mean here?
It's so important. In the Old Testament, zakar isn't just passive mental recall. It means to remember in a way that leads to action.
Ah.
So when the text says God remembered Noah, it means he was now actively intervening. He was causing the winds to blow and the waters to subside. He was setting restoration in motion.
And Noah's first act when he gets off the ark is worship. It's a sacrifice of gratitude.
Yes, and God responds immediately by establishing his covenant. The first time the word berith is used, he promises never again to destroy all flesh with water, and he seals it with a sign,
The rainbow, a visible reminder of mercy.
a constant reminder.
So if we step back and look at the whole narrative, the corruption, the ark, the debate, the aftermath, what is the ultimate significance of the flood?
It's a massive hinge point in the biblical story. It marks the transition from the world of creation to the world we live in now, and it looks forward to a promised new creation. It's this powerful account of God's perfect justice against sin, but also his incredible undeserved grace, providing a means of salvation,
The ark.
the ark, which is seen by theologians as this clear foreshadowing of the ultimate provision of the cross.
You know, the sources leave us with one final, really provocative thought that connects this ancient story right to today. We talked about how Noah was, for all intents and purposes, completely alone in his faith.
And that's exactly the point Jesus makes centuries later. He warns that the time of his second coming will be just like in the days of Noah.
How so?
People will just be going about their lives, eating, drinking, getting married, not paying attention, and they'll be caught completely off guard by what's coming. The warning is about vigilance, about being ready.
That is a powerful thought to end on. We started this deep dive asking what it takes to maintain righteousness in a corrupt world. So the final thought for you, the listener, is to consider the sheer strength of Noah's faith. What does it take to maintain that kind of conviction, that obedience, when you feel like an island in the middle of the ocean, sharing a message that maybe nobody else wants to hear?